My name is Melinda Hart. You are watching Stamping with Hart. I am an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up, and tonight's live is going to be focused on paper pumpkin alternate projects. So if you are not familiar with paper pumpkin, it is a monthly subscription box that Stampin' Up does called Paper Pumpkin. Every month is a kit that's easy to make and put together. It's all inclusive, meaning everything that you need is in the kit. But a lot of the times we get creative and we come up with alternate ideas. So I think it was 2 weeks ago, I had put together the exact cards from this kit. And tonight we're going to talk about some options here. So here we go. The original paper pumpkin card designs. Hi Tracy, how are you? So happy to have you here. The original paper pumpkin designs look like this. They were so cute this month. And the alternates look like this. So we did a play on just the imagery here. And then these two are very similar, just depending on how you want to, do your layout, your card design. I wanted to try to stick to a very similar theme, just kind of like do some combination stamping and shading and different things like that. So I was just playing around, thought we would do a campfire. With this one, it's really more of a landscape, and I thought if you would want to add like the camper into it, you could do that. Just something like that. This is a little bit simpler. You'll see here we have like the timber embossing folder. You're going to see accents of that on the cards, or at least these two are our little landscape cards here. This is a shaker card, and it was the first thing I thought of when I saw the way that they had these windows inside these fun fold cards. So this was my version of doing a shaker on the lantern card. So we're going to try to recreate this one today, and we're going to try to recreate this one today. So I'm going to work on this one first, just in case I run out of time. But I don't know if you've ever done shaker cards. You'll have to let me know in the comments. I thought it turned out so cute. All three of these cards will fit inside these super cool envelopes that they provided in the paper pumpkin kit. It's going to be a tight fit with the shaker card because I have that the foam strip adhesive. It will fit, but it's going to be tight. So just something to be aware of, but they will, they'll still, coordinate. They'll still match back. And I wanted, because they're so unique, I wanted to be able to still use these. So, all right, let's go ahead and let's make a couple of cards here. We're going to do a combination of our inks and Stampin' blends again. This is going to be our fire, our little fire here, our campfire combination of colors. So we'll have some fun with that in a minute. And let me just try to set this card off to the side so you can still see it while I'm working. All right, so we're going to do Balmy Blue as our card base shade. And I like to use about just as many of the, just about as many of the stamps that I can use. Not necessarily all on one card, but I do on occasion try to do that. It's funny to me that I have so many stamps on this card. You guys will see in just a minute, but I was having fun with it. There were so many fun phrases and they were all tied together. A lot of times when we get a paper pumpkin kit, there is an overall theme with it. But with this kit in particular, there were so many sentiments that were like, I could just put that literally all on the same card, that I really wanted to try to do that. So I am cutting this to 5.5 by 8.5, and I'm going to score it at 4 1/4. Okay. All right, and then I'm just going to use my bone folder to get that down, and then I'm going to cut another piece. Let's see. So I cut up a lot of my card strips, and I end up with a layer that is typically it's about 3 inches, And then on the other side, I'm going to cut it to 4.5. Okay. This is going to become our scene. And then I'm going to cut another piece to 3 1/8. And then it's still basic white. And then just up to 4.5. And I think that is 4 5/8, right? So the next 1/8 inch mark there, just so that we have a little bit of a border around it. Okay, and I'm going to set this one to the side so that I don't get my sizes confused. We're going to do a little punching too, and I'll show you that in just a minute. Don't mind my Stampin' mat here, it's a little bit messy. Okay, so what I'm going to do, now you could do this a couple of different ways. So with this here, let me just show you the two images here. So these trees, the larger ones that are in the forefront here, they're actually the stamp. So they're the tree stamp, the solid one. And then I have that layering stamp over top. And on this one, I actually made a stencil, and it looks a little bit softer on this version. So you can see the difference here between the two of them. If you kind of want that softer look, you can do the stencil. And if you want that more solid image look, I think this is a little more like bright. That's what we're going to do here. It's the easier thing to do too, to be honest. So let's go ahead and do some stamping. We're going to use Granny Apple Green. And let me just show you this real quick too. So every time I work with a paper pumpkin kit, I like to stamp out every stamp that I have in the kit, just so that I can take a look at it and see what it looks like. And then I also take a look at the coordinating colors. And the coordinating colors for this kit are actually all 8 of these colors. So I went with Garden Green and Granny Apple Green. And then we're going to be using just a touch of like Early Espresso and Crushed Curry too. So I do have another color added in there, and I'll get to that in just a moment, but we're going to open our Granny Apple Green ink. I'm going to use my full-size ink pads for everything. The ink pad that came inside the paper pumpkin kit was Garden Green. That was the color this month. So, all right. Just keep moving things around. Okay. So what I tried to do was kind of have 2 big trees and 2 little trees. And one tree is kind of stamped, one big tree is kind of stamped like right in the middle here, like middle-ish positioning. And then I have another one kind of down here a little closer to the bottom edge of the card. And you could do your trees just in whatever configuration will work for you. We're going to use Garden Green for that little detail stamp. So I'm going to get out my Garden Green here. I'm going to use my mini daubers in just a minute, my sponge daubers. All right, and then we're just going to line this up right on top of the tree. I like to kind of line it up at the bottom and then work my way up to the top. Okay. That looks good. And now I am going to use my stencil for the smaller tree. So let me show you what that looks like. I keep covering everything on my table. Here it is. Okay, so you know these decorative, they're kind of like a little tree. It's a die cut that has the tree and the sentiment piece right on it. So this piece right here. This is the negative of all of that. So we're going to use this little tree to make a background. And I'm just going to lay this down, and I'm going to use my little mini sponge dauber. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just want to get our little tree image on there. And I'm just going to start coloring this in. So this is kind of our tree scene. Now I am going to do some detail here, but what I'm going to do for the little trees, since we don't need this whole big tree here, I'm going to clean it really quick, just so that I don't have any ink on those bottom pieces there. All right, so I'm going to take a Post-it, and we're just going to do the first 4 rows. So just these top 4 rows for our little trees. And then this card, just because we're creating a scene, is a little bit more on the details side. A little more detail there. Did I say 4 rows? I'm looking at 5 rows. Let me just correct myself there. Okay. And then we're just going to line this up. Same thing. I usually go from the bottom. All right, so the next color that I'm actually going to be working with is Early Espresso. And I'm going to be creating kind of like a ground area. So I'm just going to take my little mini sponge dauber. I'm going to get my Early Espresso out. And here we go. Now all I'm going to do is just lightly dab this on. So instead of like going in a swirling motion, I'm just dabbing to make it look a little bit more like dirt. They use Night of Navy, but I decided to do Misty Moonlight. I didn't want to go too dark with the sky. I mean, this is pretty dark as it is. So I'm going to start with Misty Moonlight Dark. I'm going to gradually add in Misty Moonlight Light, and we're going to end with Balmy Blue Dark. Okay, so right kind of in that tree line is where I'm going to start with dark. I'm going to get that top part first, and then we're going to start doing some blending. Okay, so you can kind of see like there's some very obvious differences there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to start letting our alcohol markers do their thing. And this is where we get that like inky sky look. And we just blend, blend, blend. I love the way that this looks around the trees, like when you're done with it. And you could do as much or as little as you want. That's the beauty of the alcohol markers. You will not put a hole in your paper. So you can start to see that outline around the trees. I love, love, love that look. Okay, and then I'm just going to kind of wiggle in here. Here we go. Okay, and you guys will notice I have like a little mistake right here. You could cover that up with a sequin or a star, or you could do your Misty Moonlight Dark all the way up to the top. Okay, but you can kind of see how that like creates that just that really super cool effect. Like it almost brings the trees forward, doesn't it? So I love this. So we're just going to give that a second to dry. You can see how saturated that is. So we're just going to give that a second to dry. And while we're letting that dry, because we are going to do a little bit of color lifter here in a minute to create like some starry sky look here, like these little dots here are just the color lifter. So let me see. we're going to switch to our card base, and we're going to create this frame of sentiments and fireflies here. And that will be all of the stamps here from this paper pumpkin kit. So I'm going to try to follow the same pattern that I did with this card. So let me start here. We're going to use garden green to stamp all of our sentiments and our little fireflies. Just keep it consistent. Okay, you can use the big or the small. You get a big firefly and a little one, just depending. So we're going to start with the big one right in the corner. Okay, and then the next sentiment I have is the dream big, aim high. So I'm going to ink that up. I'm sorry I have to ink this up off camera. Maybe I can move these. Let's see. How's that? That should be better. Okay. So dream big, aim high. I'm just going to frame that up. Set that down. I love, love, love all of the sentiments in this kit. The messaging in this kit is so sweet. Okay, so I'm going to do another big firefly here. And then we're going to do the word explore. Okay. So let's do explore. And let's see if we can fit, well, it looks like it's still the big one. You could do the big or the little one here. Let me just take a look and see what that looks like from a spacing standpoint. I think it's okay. Okay, so we have another big one. Now we're going to go this way, and it is the world awaits you. So let's do that one. Okay, the world awaits you. And then here it looks like I have two fireflies, a little one and a big one. So since we're going to have our card this way, I wanted them to be upright. So we have one this way, and then we'll add our second one. I was a little light-handed with that one. Okay, that's better. All right, and then we have the world awaits you again, and then explore. So let me work that one backwards. So we'll do explore next. Explore. And then another big one. Okay, and then the world awaits you. All right. Oh yeah, that is good. That's good spacing and sizing for that part. And then on this side, we have let the adventure begin, even though that's slightly covered. So let the adventure begin. And then another big one. Is that, no, it's a little one. The small firefly and explore. I don't know, that looks a little bit tight. Let's see if that fits. Yeah, looks like it's gonna fit. Might be a little overlap, but for the most part, we did pretty good. All right, so our next part is gonna be, we're gonna come back here and we're gonna do a little bit with the color lifter. So I'm gonna take the bullet tip side and I'm just gonna do a bunch of little dots. And you just have to, like, the longer you sit, the lighter it will be. And it takes a minute for the color lifter to sort of like do its thing. So it's not exactly an eraser, but it is a really cool, it's a cool little technique that you can add in whenever you're doing anything with your Stampin' Blends. And I like when you can combine it with ink and then it just looks seamless. Okay, so just do as many of those until you're happy with it. Okay. Okay, and you can see how that's lifting. Like you can see how that color is starting to lift out. So we can start to build this onto our card. So I'm going to take that layer now, and that's just going to make like a little frame right around here. If you want to have like darker edging, what I did was I ran the edges here along my early espresso ink pad just to make it look a little bit more like a frame to kind of separate that. So just like real light, just went around. Don't get too crazy with it so that you don't end up with it somewhere you don't want it, but that's how I did that. So I'll just give that a second to dry. And then I'm just going to take my glue and let's put down this first layer. Okay, so we have this part. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to make our fire. So here's the fun part about this. To make our fire, you guys, this is brand new. So this is going to be available on August 3rd as part of the Cute Halloween Suite. And you're going to be able to punch like multiple little Halloween things. And this is supposed to be a ghost. We're going to use it to make the fire. So I'm just going to grab some basic white. And we're just going to I'm going to punch 3 of them. Okay. So there's 1, 2, don't mind the little bits. And let me make a space for the 3rd one. And then we'll go in, we'll get that 3rd one. Okay, so here we're going to have some more fun with our blends. And what we are going to do is just work our way out with the colors in the fire. So the colors that you're going to want are, or some combination of this. I used Cajun Craze Light for the darkest part. So just kind of like right in the center of each one. And it doesn't have to be fancy or have any particular kind of shape. Just get some color on there. I'll add a little bit more here. Okay, and then the next color will be Poppy Parade Dark. And then we're going to start creating like a halo around each darker color. So the lighter color will kind of like halo around the original color there. So just kind of going around that and blending. Let me just make sure you guys can see what I'm coloring here. Yeah, okay. And our next color is going to be Pumpkin Pie Dark. So Pumpkin Pie Dark, we're gonna, same thing, just gonna kind of halo it here. There we go. You can always go back in and tweak these colors too if you don't get it 100% the way that you like it the first time. And then we're going to do Pumpkin Pie Light. And what I'm trying to do is kind of blend the Pumpkin Pie Dark and Light. So that it's not looking so harsh. Okay. Same thing. Okay, that one's getting a little, you can see that tip is getting a little bit dry. And then the next color is Daffodil Delight Dark. Okay. And then the next color after that is going to be Daffodil Delight Light. And now this one is where we kind of do the last of our blending, whatever we need. But the idea is to have that like flickery flame look, if we can manage it. That's at least the look I was going for. Okay. I'm definitely, it's on my list. I would love to take an alcohol markers like class and really learn more about blending and everything, but you don't have to be a professional to get a cute, super cute look. Let's talk about the Timber 3D embossing folder. I tried to do my embossing ahead of time so I wouldn't take up too much time with this. But basically, whenever you're working with your embossing, you always end up with like little pieces, right? And the little pieces are what I usually use to do like logs and things like that. If I'm going to do like a layering piece or something. So these are the scrap pieces that I want to use. I just want you to get a good look of what it looks like though when it's embossed. It's so beautiful. So whether this is brand new, so this is going to be in the holiday catalog or the new mini catalog, I should say. But yeah, you can make really cute logs with this. I'm also going to be using, I believe this is the Lovely Labels Pick-a-Punch. And we're going to be using kind of the squared off edge version instead of this fancier one to make a couple of logs. Okay, so I kind of went for like a 1/2 inch. But if you do 3/4 inch, whatever you end up with, you can see that these aren't exactly the same size. They're similar, but they're not like exactly the same. And that's okay because you're not going to see the whole log anyway. But I kind of went with like 3 inches and 3.5 inches. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'll just cut this one in half. How about that? And then we'll need one more. Let's see if that works. Let's try this. Okay, and now we're going to add our flames. Okay, so let's see. I colored them all. So here's the one thing I didn't tell you guys. One is opposite. So 2 go this way and then 1 goes this way. But I did not do that. So we're just going to do our fire all in the same direction, just so that you know what the original design. So for the 2 that are down on the logs, I'm going to use the tear and tape, and I'm going to put a Stampin' Dimensional on the top flame. So cute. A campfire can be cute. It's one of those things that the minute I see something like this, I want a s'more. So maybe if you guys are doing packaging for s'mores, you could do like your little packaging label with a little campfire on it. How cute would that be? Kids would go crazy for that. All right, and then let's do one Stampin' Dimensional for our fire. There we go. The wind's blowing. The wind's blowing the fire this way. All right, and this is pretty much our card. I would just do an inside. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that the sequins that come in the original paper pumpkin kit would be so cute on here too, you know, just depending on how you would want to do that. So if you want to do any more embellishments, you can. But that is card number 1. Here is the original card. This is the paper pumpkin version. I should have brought out my paper pumpkin cards, the ones that I did in my other live, but here's what the original one looks like. And then here's our stepped up version, right? Like our little bit fancier version. So this one is going to be cut apart and we're going to turn it into this. So you're going to need a window sheet, some of the foam strip adhesive. I'm going to be using crushed curry for my card base. We're going to be stamping with the 2 different colors. So we're going to be using crushed curry ink and a little bit of garden green ink. And we'll go ahead and put this together. And the last thing, just in case I get cut off, our sequins for everything, I used this like gold, brown, orange combo because I think that it goes perfectly with what they did. The Paper Pumpkin team did with their coloring. with the branch, the brown branch, and then we have this warm kind of orangey yellow fire. So I thought that was like a perfect combo, but you could also use the sequins. These ones are sticker back, but if you want to put just a few around your lantern, you could use these too. And we're just going to cut all 3 panels. Here we go. So right on the score line of each card, I'm going to cut. We're going to save our the white panels for something else, or you could trim it down for the inside of the card if you would want. Okay, now I'm going to trim these down 1/8 of an inch, both of these layers, okay, so that they'll layer on top of each other. So this white border that we have going on here is going to go away. So I'm going to use my garden green ink again. When I see it, I see jimmies. Okay, so jimmies or sprinkles or whatever you want to call it. It's this stamp here. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's like this really cool little, looks like jimmies to me, like pattern or sprinkles that you would put on ice cream. And we're just going to go around the edge of this card. Okay, because you know, you just need a 1/4 inch that's visible, so you don't have to worry about this being perfect stamping. Okay, and we're just gonna keep on going. And then with this piece here, we are gonna punch this out. Just be careful that you don't yank it, you know, just take your time with it. It's all laser cut, but we just have to pop out a few pieces. Just don't want to tear your lamp. Okay, or I should say lantern. All right. And then we'll have our layering piece too. So the thing that I want to point out with these 2 pieces is that we have 1, 2, 3 of these white glowing circles, and we are going to stamp in the little firefly in crushed curry in each of those spots. Do another one here. I just kind of do them at an angle here and there. Okay, so then we have that part done. And then the next thing we are going to do, I also am going to need my sentiment, so I guess I can do that while I'm stamping. So these pre-cut pieces that came in the kit, this banner, this pre-cut banner, I'm just going to pull this out right here. You're not going to need the whole thing, but we are going to use the sentiment, Let Your Light Shine. I'm also going to use crushed curry. And I'll just do it like kind of closer to the banner side. And then we're going to just trim off this excess. We don't need the whole thing. So let's see, we could probably trim off about 1 inch. Yeah. Or let's do 3/4. We'll do 3/4 of an inch. Now let's do 1 inch. Okay, yeah, we'll just do 1 inch. And I need to cut one more thing. I need to cut the window sheet. So that's going to go on here like this. So we'll just leave these 2 pieces off to the side for a minute. So for our window sheet, you want to cut it so that you have enough room to glue it behind this frame. And the frame is 3 1/4 by, hold on, let me hold this a little more steady. Looks like 3 3/8. Okay, so I'm going to give myself a little bit of wiggle room with that. And I'm going to cut a little extra. So let me get my window sheets. And I had already trimmed this down earlier because I had a big, gigantic, it's like a 12 by 12 piece. So I had trimmed that to 3 3/4. And I'm actually going to do 3 3/4 on the other side too. Okay. Save your window sheet pieces because you can get multiple shaker cards out of these. Okay. So now I'm going to use tear and tape to put this on the back of this piece here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is stay close. I don't want my adhesive to show through, so I'm going to stay on the white, but I'm going to get as close to the inner part of the frame as possible to get the window sheet on first. Okay. Okay, so these are the foam adhesive sheets, like the strips, the long strips, the foam strips. And I usually just cut these down to the size that I want. So let me tell you what I like to do. I'm gonna go around the frame, and instead of going like to the bottom, I am gonna do a little reinforcer on the bottom, but I'm actually going to square it in here so that the sequins kind of stay more in this area. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of do the same thing. I'm just gonna kind of outline this. Right, and then the one thing I did forget to do that I would recommend is just a little glue dot back here, like a little adhesive dot. So let me grab one real quick for my little lantern on the outside so that it's not so flimsy. Don't need a ton, just one is good. Okay, now normally you would put your sequins here. You would put your sequins on the back and then set your frame on top of it. I'm gonna kind of do the opposite because I'm gonna get a feel for how many sequins I have here. Now, if you use your fingers, which I will be doing, these will stick to you. Don't be alarmed. They're a little staticky. Okay. I like to be generous with my sequins. You guys can let me know, do you use a little or a lot? I like to use a lot because let's be honest, if you guys are anything like me, you buy a lot. I buy a lot of sequins. Okay, so I'm just gonna put a bunch down here. I should get like a fancy little scooper. Okay. And also close your sequins so you don't end up knocking them everywhere. If you're anything like me, my space is so narrow. Okay. See, they're stuck to me. Cannot get these off. This happened when I was making the sample. See. Okay. All right. So what I'm gonna do, we want the branch to be on the top, and we're literally gonna line up our edges and just set it down. And hopefully I will do it right. Looks like I'm a little bit crooked, but you get the idea. Okay, and then if anything is peeking through, like you can hardly tell here, but you could always trim that. So I could take my scissors and just trim this part back a little, just in case you don't get it perfect, just so that we don't see it. I like it to kind of look clean if I can help it. But isn't that cute? Okay, and so we're gonna just adhere this to this panel. Now, if you want to have a little more, you know, adhesive than usual, I'm going to use the Stampin' Plus for this, the Stampin' Seal Plus. I refilled my seal and my Seal Plus. I was so proud of myself. Okay. All right, we're going to set this down. Just kind of give yourself that 1/4 inch frame around. I mean, is that not the perfect color for that? I can't get over it. It looks so good. I have to wonder if they do that on purpose. I swear they do that on purpose because that looks so good. Okay, and then we're going to add our sentiment. They know what they're doing. with product coordination. It's one of the things they do best is product coordination. Okay. All right, and then I kind of left the sentiment banner here simple because all of the fun is inside the shaker. Okay. All right, so let your light shine. There is I think a congrats or a congratulations on this. So that could be like the inside sentiment for your card if you would want to. So here we go. Here's our 2 shaker cards here. Didn't they turn out great? Oh my gosh, I love these. You're gonna love sending these out. And the great thing is that if you are gonna do the other cards, which are like the trees and stuff, so there's the camper, the trees, and the lantern, you could do the greens, you could do the silvers and the golds, you could do the reds, you could do a combination for fall if you would want to turn this into more of a fall project. And then before I go, I know I didn't get a chance to make this card live with all of you, but I just wanted to walk you through what I did with this one. So it's the same exact concept in terms of the way that we made this scene here. It's just bigger. So this one, let me give you the measurement on it here. The layer on this is 5 1/4 by 3. Okay, so 3 by 5 1/4, and then we have a 1/16 of an inch frame in basic white behind it. The entire front card panel is early espresso with the timber 3D embossing folder. Okay, so that, like, I just really wanted to have that be the whole front because, well, number one, it's gorgeous. You know, you really want to show off the embossing when you can, but it had that woodland look to it. So here we did the little fireflies and I did the color lifter around them. I did not go as heavy with the alcohol marker blending. So here you can see that like heavy outline around the trees. I love that look. But if you want it to be softer, less blended, you can see here's that darker, here's the light misty, and then it blends up into the balmy blue dark. So there's that. And then this piece here is basic white, and that is 3 3/4 by 1/2 inch. The world awaits you. And then I just used some of the twine, basic white twine that had come in another, I don't think it was this paper pumpkin kit. I think it came in a different kit. Correct me if I'm wrong, you guys, but I think that was from a different one. Sometimes I get it confused. And then I used these little blue sequins from the paper pumpkin kit on this project just to kind of give it a little bit more of a glow. But another thing that I thought would be really cute on the fireflies is like the little holiday rhinestones in gold or something, and then their little butt would look like it was glowing. So I just think that it's so cute. So anyway, all right, so here are our cards for the night, but these are all of our cards. So here we go. Here are these 2 here. Thank you guys so much for spending time with me tonight. If you aren't already signed up for my email list, if you want to sign up, you can click join my list on my Facebook page, or I'll add a link to the comments after this is over. I let people know ahead of time what the project's going to be before I go live on Thursdays and Sundays at 7:30. And I just loved having you here. I'll be sure to go back through the comments and reply to all of you, and have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. Bye guys. Thank you.